Welcome everybody to our webinar today. We are talking about our new product, the CelFi GoRed, and we are talking about FirstNet and safer buildings a little bit. Our feature speaker today is Joe Smeltzer, who is our head of product.
Hi. Is that it, Dean? That's the intro?
Well, you haven't advanced the slide yet.
Oh, okay.
And there's Joe right there. We're located right here in sunny San Diego. It's a little windy today. And Joe's going to kind of take us through CelFi GoRed for FirstNet. So take it away, Joe.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dean. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Yes. So today I'm really excited to be talking to everyone about a product that we've announced. We've just announced called CelFi GoRed. If any of you are familiar with our Go line of products, it's one in that series. So sort of follows that paradigm. You'll be hearing a little bit more about that as we go through this. First, I wanted to just a few disclaimers. I talk a lot about FirstNet in this presentation. We do talk about AT&T a little bit, and I just wanted to make it clear that I don't work for FirstNet. We don't work for FirstNet in any official capacity. I don't mean to represent FirstNet or AT&T in any official manner. My effort here in this presentation is really meant to accomplish two things. Sort of describe how our products interact with FirstNet, and to help some of our ecosystem partners. We have a lot of diverse people on the webinar today with all kinds of backgrounds. Some people are very new to FirstNet. Some people are very new to CelFi. And so I'm trying to present and describe sort of a little bit about FirstNet and how we work with FirstNet. And then I just wanted to make that clear that that we're not trying to officially represent FirstNet or AT&T in any way. And then the other thing is just a comment about the Safer Buildings Coalition. The Safer Buildings Coalition is an organization that really has as its mission to promote the first responders' mission to promote public safety in the U.S. and are actively working behind the scenes to help educate the general population, to educate AHJs and everyone else in the ecosystem about FirstNet and about public safety. Nextivity is a member of the Safer Buildings Coalition, but again, I'm not trying to represent them per se. They will come up perhaps in this presentation, but we're just members, and that's the extent of our representation there. So I hope that's clear to everyone. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit. Nextivity. Nextivity is a company. We're headquartered in San Diego, California. We were founded in 2006. After a few years, we got our first product launched in 2009. We have offices globally throughout USA, UK, Spain, Singapore, and we have individuals sort of working in most of the major regions globally. In our history, we've had a lot of history of direct carrier interaction. We have been approved by nearly 200 mobile network operators in about 100 countries, so quite a bit of footprint there. We're an IP company. We put a substantial amount of our revenue into development and research, and we're always working to build new technologies and to develop our patent portfolio and to really differentiate our products through the technology that we integrate. You'll notice on the bottom of this screen here, there's a number of awards. I can't even read what they all are. I took them from our marketing department, but we also have a lot of recognition in terms of our products being awarded for various technology and business awards. So we're very proud of all of that. And of course, we extend the invitation to anyone who wants to come by our headquarters and visit us. We'd love to have you and show you around. Okay, so Nextivity. I want to start on the lower left side here. Just a little intro to what we do at Nextivity. We are a chipset company. We build our own chipset. Today, we're shipping our 3rd generation chipset. This chip that you see on the lower left there is currently shipping inside the GoRed product. And we're getting ready to commercialize our 4th generation chipset, which will add some new capabilities and some new features like TDD support, for example. We also do all of our own embedded software. We have a software team. We build. We have all of our own code. Obviously, having our own chipset, we can't rely on other third parties for reference designs or source code. So we're fully self-sustaining in that regard. We build all of our own radios. We have of course, we have radio engineering and antenna engineering. You'll see antennas as you move up to the right there. We build all of our own antennas in our products. We have some partnerships with other antenna companies where we will co-develop stuff, particularly some of the external antennas. We do, of course, we do all the testing and validation and design as well. And then we do all the mechanical design. So all of our industrial design, plastics, tooling, all the mechanicals for our products, including supporting things like mounts, brackets, etc. We design all of that stuff here in house in San Diego. So we're really soup to nuts on the product design itself. The other thing that we added about 5 years ago is a whole cloud connectivity piece. So we've built, I guess you could consider an IoT style platform on top of the cloud. We work with Microsoft Azure IoT as our platform provider. We've built a bunch of applications and capabilities on top of that cloud. We have a bunch of mobile apps that we've delivered to the field, mostly for sort of consumer style use. However, we are also delivering some applications, and we have a bunch of stuff in the works that'll be targeted for professional installers, for our ecosystem partners that will really help them interface and deploy our products a lot easier going forward. So that's what Nextivity does and who we are. So let's dive in a little bit into this presentation here. Just a little intro on FirstNet. There's a lot of misconceptions about FirstNet. Being very active in public safety, I have a lot of these conversations about FirstNet and what they do and who they are. And there's a lot public safety as a market or as a product ecosystem obviously has a lot of legacy, a lot of history. People have been delivering public safety products for 50 years or more. And so there's a lot of sort of existing momentum and misconceptions about what FirstNet is. FirstNet lives today inside the network core. And again, I'm not trying to get super technical here. So, these comments are mostly meant to be illustrative. Happy to discuss if you think I've gotten anything wrong here. I'm happy to hear your commentary about that. But so FirstNet lives inside the AT&T network core. FirstNet uses the AT&T assets that have already been deployed. So AT&T's entire commercial network is sort of a host for FirstNet. You'll see in the lower left, AT&T has a bunch of bands, a bunch of spectrum that they've licensed today. And all of that spectrum is available for FirstNet. You think of AT&T as sort of the network infrastructure for the FirstNet system. The FirstNet network core, which provides many of the features and functions that are offered to the public safety agencies, first responders, et cetera. Those apps and those services live inside the AT&T network core as sort of a secure core inside the network. I believe one day there's a plan to make that network core entirely independent. Again, I don't have a ton of deep visibility to that, but I believe that's a long-term plan for FirstNet. Today, it lives inside the AT&T network core. You'll notice here that I talked a little bit about the commercial bands that are available through AT&T that they already offer bands. For example, 2, 4, 5, 12, and band 30. Those are sort of the commercial bands that everyone who's a subscriber utilizes with AT&T. And what FirstNet does is it adds a band that's been named 14 to the AT&T network. So now it's additional spectrum and it's an additional band that can live inside the AT&T network and has been dedicated to public safety traffic. Okay, this band stuff will become more meaningful as we continue through this a bit. Okay, so coverage, FirstNet coverage is delivered today through the existing AT&T core network. AT&T is adding towers, and FirstNet is adding towers that will support the FirstNet service specifically. That can be more or less dedicated to band 14. So in areas where you might have you have some coverage holes, or you have issues where you're not getting your regular commercial AT&T service delivering FirstNet, AT&T and FirstNet can deploy towers, or they can deploy their portable assets like their SAT Colts, and then they can deliver a band 14 service sort of anywhere they need to. And part of the federal grant for this network is to help build out this comprehensive coverage network with band 14, and sort of deliver a really strong coverage solution for the entire nation. Okay. Some devices. I just wanted to highlight some of the devices that are available through FirstNet. And one thing I wanted to sort of point out here is a lot of people think of FirstNet as service to, say, firefighters or law enforcement or EMT or other kinds of first responders. But FirstNet is also about devices. So you'll notice in the middle here is a hotspot that is also FirstNet ready. So you've got FirstNet Cellular service coming to this hotspot that in turn will deliver Wi-Fi there locally. There's another Wi-Fi hotspot sort of on the far right there that is also FirstNet ready and supports band 14. So the point here is the FirstNet ecosystem is not just about voice communications. It's not just about handsets. It's about all kinds of devices that are delivering voice and data service over this network. So when you take these kinds of devices and you have a FirstNet SIM, which really provides you with your authorization into the network, that combination becomes the FirstNet service, which will offer some of their features and functions that you may have heard of, things like priority and preemption and other things within the FirstNet network that allow it to deliver a really high quality service in times of high demand for first responders. Okay. Now a little bit about spectrum and propagation. I'm trying not to get too deep technically here, but I wanted to also sort of talk a little bit about spectrum and propagation, because that will help you understand really the value proposition of CelFi GoRed and what we're really the core of what we're trying to do here. So as I mentioned, AT&T has a bunch of commercial frequencies that they use to deliver FirstNet. All of the AT&T bands carry FirstNet service. But one thing about spectrum and propagation is that the lower frequencies tend to propagate and penetrate better than the higher frequencies. So if you look here, you can see sort of the AT&T tower on the left, and then emanating out from the tower are the various bands and the various frequencies that the bands are delivering over. And then you see on the far right band 12 and band 14, which are both in the 700 700 megahertz range of spectrum. So all of this stuff together really defines the FirstNet coverage. But you'll see that I hope this is visible here on these graphics, but you'll see that typically the lower bands, in this case band 12 and band 14, tend to define the network edge because they have the best propagation and they have the best reach. So when you're looking at building out a network core, typically you use the higher bands will help you with some of your density and capacity, and then the lower bands will help you with your coverage. And in the case of CelFi GoRed, we're really trying to improve the coverage and deliver great coverage. So as a coverage solution, we're really focusing on the lower bands. In this case, we're focusing on the bands that really define the edge of the network. So spectrum and propagation, aka coverage, there's a bunch of factors that contribute to making perfect coverage virtually impossible inside of any economic reality. Of course, you could put towers every 500 yards, and you would probably help a lot, but that's just not economically feasible. So several factors contribute to make perfect coverage impossible. One obviously is distance. This is the one you're probably most familiar with. It's just simple. The geography, of course, the U.S. is extremely vast, and it's just economically difficult to put all of these towers in such a way that you could cover all of these spaces just from a standpoint of distance. Free space path loss. You may have heard about path loss, and what we're talking about here is, again, I mentioned how the lower frequencies tend to have a better propagation and distribution than the higher frequencies. So this is just a real simple model. There's many ways you can calculate path loss. And when we're talking about path loss and we're talking about attenuation, we're essentially talking about the power that is lost from that signal from the point where it is distributed. So say, for example, from the point of the tower, you have the signal being originated at the tower, and then over some distance the signal loses power. That's called attenuation. And the easy way, there's several ways to model this. This Egley method is one way to do that. And you'll notice here that on the left I've got a model, this modeled with a 2300 megahertz frequency, and you'll notice that the attenuation of the signal at 3 kilometers is about 125 dB. On the right hand side is a 700 megahertz model, and at 3 kilometers it attenuates 115 dB. So you have about 10 dB less attenuation on the lower bands, and that's really important, because again, the lower bands will tend to provide coverage and provide sort of the network edge where some of your higher frequency signals have already faded. Okay, so what does that mean in terms of practical impact? Here I'm showing two examples. A 40 dBm signal, which is essentially like 10 watts. This would be something that the sort of power that you might find in a typical macro. There's a variety of power levels available. 10 watts is a common one. 10 watts is 40 dBm. So at 3 kilometers and 2300 megahertz, you'll see that a 40 dBm signal will attenuate about 125 dB. So there on the ground, on the right-hand side, you might be at, say, neg 85 of your signal power. And hopefully all this will come into more focus as we go through the presentation of why this stuff is sort of important in the context of CelFi. Or at your 700 megahertz signal with a 40 dBm origination, you'll lose about 115 dB. So you get neg 75. So you get a stronger signal over that common distance with some assumptions made. So low signals are better for coverage, and their higher frequency signals are typically used for capacity and density. So what affects coverage? There's several factors besides distance that can affect coverage. One of them is geography. A lot of times there's just things like mountains or hills, or you might have a building that's sitting in a valley, or you have just your typical geography elements can definitely play a big role on your coverage propagation. Another one could be environmental factors. So even, for example, we'll find a lot of urban environments where the coverage should be great. You could be sitting 100 meters from a tower and still have poor coverage because of things that are surrounding your space. Could be buildings, could be other structures that will prevent the signal from entering your building properly and lead to bad coverage. Okay. Another one is another issue can be pilot pollution. So this one is more challenging, but it's also quite common, where you could be, again, in an urban or suburban environment where you have plenty of signal. If you're measuring the signal power, the measurements will all be good. You'll have strong signal, yet you'll have poor user experience inside the building. And the reason for that could be interference, or what's known as pilot pollution. Essentially what that means is your typical handset or your UE has the ability to sort of look at or attach to a certain number of pilots, and it can become limited. So if you have a large number of pilots, say 5 or 10 or 15 pilots, which if you're in an urban or suburban environment, those numbers are quite common. your handset can actually struggle to really latch on to one good signal. And so what ends up happening is it's hopping around from different sources, and that can create a poor user experience, create drop calls or jitter, or a bad QoS for your voice conversation. So this is an issue that that also CelFi can help resolve. Building materials. Those are a huge factor in propagation. You'll notice that there's sort of this LEEDs certificate on the right side there. Many buildings are becoming much more aware of energy efficiency. There's a lot of incentives for buildings to improve their energy efficiency, and a lot of times that's done with a variety of coatings on the exterior of the building. In those buildings, they'll sort of keep the sunlight out, and they'll allow that building to be cooled much more efficiently with the HVAC. But it also keeps the cell signals from penetrating the exterior. And we typically use a number of 30 dB, but a lot of times these energy efficiency methods will really play havoc with the cell signal and penetrating your building. So we see that all the time, buildings that are suffering from poor coverage because of this reason. The other comment to make here is keep in mind your cell traffic is a two-way traffic. So not only is it the cell signal that's coming into the building from the outside, but it's also your individuals or your devices inside the building that are using your phones that are trying to hit the tower. And those energy efficiency methods will also affect their ability for that signal to exit. So it really becomes a two-way street. And this particular issue is even more important in the case where if you're using a typical low powered handset, you may not have the signal strength or the power, the oomph in the handset to really reach out and hit the tower if you're suffering from a lot of attenuation. So this is a big problem for in-building coverage. It's something that CelFi addresses directly. Okay, this is just a quick table for reference, compliments of our friends at Digi. I think I found this on the internet, but it's a nice measure of the various kinds of building materials and inside materials and the attenuation estimate for it. So you can imagine if you've got a building that's already starting out with sort of mediocre or poor signal on the outside, and now that signal is trying to penetrate, concrete or masonry or reinforced concrete, you're just losing a lot of signal to try to get to the inside of that building. Creates real problems for quality of service. So this is a great lead in to CelFi GoRed and why are we here and what do we do? So what does CelFi do? And this is sort of true of all of our products in general as a sort of a general statement, but what we do, and specific to GoRed, is we take the available exterior signal to the building, we clean it up with our digital processing and our signal processing, and then we boost that signal up to 100 dB and redistribute inside the building. So it's really simple. I'm trying to keep this process as simple to understand as possible. You see there on the left, you have a nice usable signal coming in from the tower. Number two, we clean it up and then we redistribute that inside the building. So here's one example of what something like that could look like from an actual product standpoint. You'll notice number one on the top there is one of our antennas that we offer. This is sort of a directional antenna. It's a log periodic dipole array antenna, but it's not our highest performing one. It's sort of a middle of the road antenna. Very useful in this kind of scenario where you're trying to pick up a source donor signal for your system. You take the source donor signal through your exterior antenna. You feed that to the Go product itself, where it works its magic. It cleans up the signal and it boosts it by up to 100 dB, and then it redistributes that over coax to these antennas on the interior of the building. It's a very, very straightforward process, super easy to understand. We have We have training and other kinds of classes that we offer to installers, and most people, after about 5 minutes of taking these classes, they're sort of bored with it because they get it. It's very simple to install. Of course, there's some typical RF things that you want to have awareness about, like loss, coaxial cable, signal loss, and stuff like that. But very, very straightforward product here. And you'll notice in this case that I have I've shown this signal being distributed to 2 omnidirectional antennas. You can run a splitter on your server side of this solution if you want to. We've seen people run four-way splitters or 6-way splitters, and then provide coverage that way. Okay.
Hey Joe, we have our first question.
Okay.
And it's a 2-part question, so let me get through both parts, and then I'll let you rip. So will all AT&T 4G LTE sites offer FirstNet services, even if a site doesn't necessarily have equipment that supports band 14 yet? In other words, will first responders have priority access to LTE if they have a FirstNet chipset in their handsets?
Okay, was that both questions?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question. I think the first answer is I don't believe all AT&T sites will initially support band 14. I think there are some there is some configuration and some there's some real sort of practical things that have to happen at that site for that site to support band 14 specifically. However, as I mentioned, all of the FirstNet services are available over all of AT&T's bands. So, and again, the way that you become a FirstNet subscriber, or the way you access the FirstNet service, is by having the FirstNet SIM. So if you've got an AT&T handset, or a handset that can attach to the AT&T network, or a device that can attach to the AT&T network, and you use a FirstNet SIM with that device, you will be connecting to the FirstNet network. And so what does that mean? That means you'll be able to take advantage of things like priority and preemption. Part of that process of getting subscribed to that FirstNet SIM is sort of identifying your, just to oversimplify it, I'll call it rank, or I'll call it your priority, because there are a few different levels of priority within the FirstNet network. And of course, with the most priority going to those first responders or public safety agents that would have the highest need. And then there's a tiering process down for different levels of priority. But as you sign up for FirstNet service, that's at that point is where you are identified as having your level of priority. So I hope that answers the question. But yes, all FirstNet service is available through all of AT&T's network assets.
Well, in that vein, we've got a second question of, is anyone really using FirstNet yet?
That's another good question. So it's interesting. I like to look at public safety and communications over public safety as kind of an old reality and a new reality, and they're kind of they're joining together to sort of create a future where our public safety communications are vastly improved. But what we hear there's 40, 50, 60, a million years of momentum right now in public safety. And so companies like Motorola and Harris and a variety of vendors and manufacturers and public safety manufacturers and vendors have been providing public safety already for a long time, and they've been doing that through a variety of SMR and LMR, radio solutions. Some analog solutions, and some have been advanced and improved to be sort of like digital two-way radio style solutions like P25. And so that legacy of public safety communications is definitely where the majority of the market is today. FirstNet is very new. FirstNet has really only been turned on since for this year. I mean, the opt-in for all of the for all 50 states and 6 territories happened on New Year's 2017. So it's really only been running for this year, but is it being used? Yes. I think the last number I saw was something like 3,600 agencies are signed on to FirstNet and using FirstNet. I deal with FirstNet subscribers every day. We have agencies all over the country that are already signed up and using FirstNet service and taking advantage of it. So, is it operational? Absolutely, yes. It is operational and running strong. Okay. So, unless there's more, I'll keep going here. Just this slide here, I also wanted to highlight something about the FirstNet service and about Cel-Fi. That is, it's a real differentiator and advantage for the product, and that is that what you get when you install a GoRed product into your space is you're improving FirstNet coverage for everything that's inside that space, whether it's people using handsets, user equipment, or you have devices that are inside that space that are also have FirstNet ready SIMs or also using FirstNet service. So just with a real simple process of putting a GoRed booster in, you can propagate your signal inside your building and really improve everyone's coverage inside that space. And we hear a lot about because of course public safety agencies and our operational facilities are distributed not always in places that are easily accessible or have great coverage. So it doesn't matter what carrier you are or how great your coverage is in general. All the carriers, and we've been doing this a long time, all the carriers have coverage issues, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But what you can quickly do with the Cel-Fi GoRed is easily solve those problems by bringing a decent or some sort of usable exterior signal into your building and really boosting it up. So you have a great effect for not only for the handsets and the user equipment, but also for the devices and things that are attaching to the network. Okay, so a little bit about the product specifically. You'll see the product itself on the upper right side there. This is what we call this GoRed. It's easily identifiable as part of the Go family. You'll notice it's got a red cover, obviously. That helps us in the field. We have some commercial versions of Go, and this is clearly one that's targeted for public safety. So this is designed to work with a FirstNet network, with the AT&T network. We have FCC approval for this product, so it's fully lawful to deploy. This particular product is NEMA 4 rated, so it's a really nice sort of indoor-outdoor style industrial design, so you can deploy it. If you've got sort of semi rugged conditions where it might get wet, or it might get sprayed with a fire hose or some other outside sort of environmental, it can be deployed in that context. We support 2 bands with this product, so it supports band 12 and band 14. Band 12 is AT&T's commercial band, and band 14 is the FirstNet dedicated LTE band. Both of those bands are in the 700 megahertz spectrum. So if you recall back to some of my earlier slides and kind of looking at what defines a network edge, we think this is a great choice for band support and frequency support, because really if you have some service anywhere in that network, you're going to pick up band 12 and band 14. So it should be a really nice product for those of you trying to really build out good service where your coverage is sort of iffy. This is a smart signal booster. Hopefully on this call you're familiar with the smart signal booster, but that sort of defines that 1, 2, 3 step process that I mentioned before. We take an outside signal in, we boost it and clean it up, and then we relay it internally. This supports 4G LTE. It also supports VoLTE. A lot of products out there we see in a competitive situation where we see some of our competitive friends are struggling a bit with VoLTE. You might have jitter, you might have some issues with quality of service or your DAC scores with VoLTE. We do great with VoLTE. We really encourage you to trial it out and see how well it works with VoLTE. Your voice conversations will be awesome. You'll have HD voice all day long. We support external antenna connectors, which is nice. So you can deploy a variety of antenna solutions, both for your donor and for your server. We offer a selection of antennas to sort of so you can tailor the solution for what your needs are on the ground. But you can also use, I mean, there's millions of antennas and different kinds of options that are out there. These are standard SMA connectors, so we're highly flexible for whatever you want to deploy. And then 24 dBm of uplink power. Again, one of the things I mentioned is that when you're inside that building, it's not only getting the signal in from the tower, you've also got to get the signal out from your handset or from your modem. And so what this device will do, what CelFi GoRed will do, is it actually picks up your signal inside the building, and then it has a lot of power for getting that signal back to the tower. So you'll see a really nice improvement both in downlink and uplink communications. They're really benefiting cellular coverage and super easy to deploy. We see people rolling these things out in under half an hour.
All right, Joe, I think you've hit the magic slide where we're starting to get some good questions in.
Okay.
We have got a couple questions on spec, and some, I think they're looking online to see the fuller spec. One is around our temperature range. Our temperature range seems pretty conservative, especially with the NEMA rating. What could you tell about what sort of conditions, and I guess why our temperature range is conservative on there versus maybe some of the things that we've said in other Go presentations, being in Alaska or in the desert and things like that? Wow.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the specmanship part of this is something that we spend a lot of time here internally trying to get right. And this is how would I say this? This is sort of the third or fourth iteration in the Go family. We've been selling this product. This product started sales. This product family started its sales in Australia, and our Go version 1.0 was an Australian product that we worked on with Telstra, and so we've been just deploying this in Australia for about 2 years now, and that product that we deployed in Australia is also sort of a commercial rating when it comes to operational temp, and what we've found is that it just works. It works well, and we cover 99% of our users' use cases with the product having the sort of the operating temp range that we have. Most of the time, these products are deployed in a condition where you may be inside a building or in sort of a temperature, some sort of a temperature controlled space. So you're not really subjecting the product to the intensity that some outdoor products can be subjected to, places like Arizona or extreme heat. So on the hot side, we just found that we seem to be hitting the majority of the use cases with the range that we have. And what we could do is we could certainly go to a wider operating temp range and sort of get down to say -40 or -30 and up a little bit hotter. But what we do if we do that is we really increase the cost substantially. And so that kind of puts the product into another category. And what we really wanted to do is we wanted to make this thing as usable and as easily deployable by a widest number of people. So we really try to hit the sweet spot when it comes to operating temp. And on the low side, what we find is that our numbers are quite conservative, and we test down to say -40 all the time with our Go products, and we have really good results. We don't have we don't have like systemic failures or anything like that on the low side. And what happens is when you plug in the product and you turn it on, of course, what does it do? It heats up in a couple minutes, and now you're actually back inside the normal operating temp range anyway. So on our field use, we actually have pretty good results with our temp range. So okay.
All right, and I've got a couple more. One is around the product. You mentioned putting a FirstNet SIM in a device. They're asking questions. Can the FirstNet and Verizon kind of coexist and be the same product?
That's a great question. I know Verizon has a long and a really strong position in public safety historically, and I think Verizon is working to continue that and to improve that. I don't know that I'm in a great position to really answer what the future is going to look like, but my expectation is that the public safety network core, the FirstNet core, the secure heart of that FirstNet network, I believe would be accessible to other trusted partners. So I believe that Verizon is going to try to participate in some way in providing, continuing to provide public safety service. I, I don't see that. I don't see that being branded specifically as FirstNet. I don't know how. I don't know how Verizon sort of has a FirstNet branded solution. I think that unless something changes in the future, unless FirstNet pivots, AT&T I believe has I believe it's a 25-year deal with FirstNet. So I think it's going to be a long-term AT&T based core network, but I know that Verizon wants to attach to it and become part of that. Now, in a given product, can you have FirstNet plus Verizon in a given product? And the answer to that is absolutely. A great example is the Sierra Wireless MG90. That's a product that supports it supports two modems. You can put a Verizon modem in and an AT&T/FirstNet modem, and then have coverage that way. So I think you will see lots of solutions that will support multiple networks. I don't know how Verizon integrates with FirstNet specifically in the future, but that could happen too.
So in the final spec related question, how many square feet does a single Cel-Fi GoRed support in general?
Yeah, so great question. The answer is about 12,500 square feet, and that number I'm kind of smiling as I say that, because if you know about RF propagation and trying, everyone wants to be quantitative about how much coverage we can provide, and the numbers are always vague because there's so many variables when it comes to providing coverage. But in typically we say about 12,500 square feet for a single go.
And actually, you're thinking of the CEU on a Quatra. It's actually 15,000 on the GoRed is what we put in the spec.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I was thinking Quatra. Yeah, 15,000. Okay, so let's look at this. This slide is a what you're looking at here is, I mentioned we have a variety of accessories that we can make available. All of these accessories have been tested and actually certified with the FCC for GoRed, so they're all usable depending on your context. I think I'll just continue on here for the sake of time. A little time check. I mentioned we have a software IoT style platform that we provide to our ecosystem partners. That's one of the features and applications that we offer through that ecosystem is a function we call antenna boost, and it's what it allows you to do is it allows you to very quickly aim your donor antenna using our very simple Wave app and our portal tools. And so this really takes something that can be very costly and very difficult to find a good source signal or to find the right source signal for your system. If you use this antenna aiming software, you can get this done in 15 minutes and get a really nice donor signal for your system. That's very simple to use. It's funny. Some of our field teams, we've taken the Pepsi challenge with our partners and gone up against some very sophisticated antenna aiming tools, and to see which solutions have give you the best results. And so far, we've won every time. So we would extend that offer to you to if you have some tools that you want to try head to head with ours. We're up for that too.
Looks like you've hit another patch of questions here.
Okay.
First one is, and I've got multiple questions that are similar. So, can you use multiple reds to cover more square footage?
Yeah, no problem. We do this all the time. It's a good question. There's this number of 30,000 square feet is a common one in public safety. A lot of people sort of have that number of 30,000 square feet in their head, and so they say, why would Nextivity come out with a product that supports 15,000 square feet when the requirement is 30,000 square feet? So one answer is yes, you can put as many GoReds in as you need to. We have customers that do that all the time. They layer these solutions together, and then they work great. And the other answer to that question is this 30,000 square feet number is there's a lot to that number. There's a lot to that, and what people are typically referring to is if you want to get a certificate of occupancy for a given building. You may have a public safety requirement for that building to get your certificate of occupancy so that you can rent or lease or sell that building. And typically most jurisdictions put the floor of your building size where that becomes a requirement at 30,000 square feet. So in many jurisdictions, you'll see a requirement where if you have a building that's larger than 30,000 square feet, you have to meet the local regional public safety requirements. And that will be some sort of indoor service for public safety. Now, it's a great question because we are not trying to do that with this product. There are a variety of requirements. There are a variety of public safety requirements that go into getting a certificate of occupancy. It's not just the 30,000 square feet. There are other requirements like 2-hour survivability. You have to have support for public safety radio bands like 700 and 800 public safety SMR or LMR radios. We're not trying to do that with this product. This is not a product that we're trying to give to commercial real estate companies so that they can go out and get a certificate of occupancy. What we're trying to do with this product is really provide great FirstNet coverage. So if you're out there in this ecosystem and you are involved with the FirstNet or AT&T promotion of FirstNet, and you're running into customers who their response is, hey, FirstNet's awesome. I love all the services that you can deliver over LTE, video on demand and high-speed data, et cetera, but my coverage sucks in my building. I'm not getting good FirstNet or AT&T service inside my building. Well, this is the product that will fix that. This is a product that will deliver FirstNet coverage inside a building for anyone who needs FirstNet coverage inside that building. We're not trying to deliver an NFPA 1221 or IFC 510 certified product that's going to be UL listed and make your building compliant for public safety. It's a different product. It's a different category, and that's not really what this is intending to do. Okay. So what you're looking at here is a GoRed and a GoM. So like I said, this GoRed is in a family of Go products. We support also a mobile context with Go. Now the first version of GoRed that is being released now is for in building. It's for a stationary context. So the GoRed is not going to support any mobile applications at this time. However, we are trying to work with the FCC and with FirstNet and all of the key stakeholders to get the regulation released such that we can become compliant. Right now, there is no FCC compliance that we can certify under for band 14 for the mobile context. So we're still working on that. Hopefully, with the help of FirstNet and the FCC and everybody getting together to discuss, we'll be able to put this product out in the mobile context as well, which opens up a lot of other cool applications.
So we have another question from a partner. Apparently, he must be a partner in the way he's asking this. Would the GoRed pair well with the CelFi GoX or the CelFi Quattro?
That's an excellent question, and I think the answer is yes. It's a great pairing there. And what you get if you, like I said, the GoRed supports bands 12 and bands 14. So those are nice solutions at the network edge, and they'll deliver your FirstNet coverage inside your building. They'll do a great job at that. If you pair this up with, say, a Quattro or a GoX, the GoX, for example, supports all 5 AT&T bands. So not only do you get 12 and 14, you get all the rest. Quattro does the same thing. So if you put in a commercial system along with the GoRed, you're going to have not only all of the commercial bands being boosted and being delivered in that context, but you'll also get GoRed. And the nice thing about the CelFi stuff is it all works. It all plays nicely together. You just have to take some absolutely minimal steps when you're doing an installation, which you can learn in 10 minutes, and you can put in a really robust and high performance in-building system in a matter of a couple hours. All right. Just wanted to talk a little bit about some use cases. We're sort of running out of time here. This is one good one that we see a lot of action around. This is I'm calling this a border bunker, but again, you have a really strong FirstNet signal coming in from the outside, but then you've got some sort of a space has a heavy concrete wall. You see a ton of attenuation from the outside to the inside. And so your signal inside this space is really bad. Real simple. Put in a GoRed, point your antenna out towards the tower, put an omnidirectional antenna on the inside, and now you've lit up that entire space up to, say, 15,000 square feet. So it's a really nice use case. We see a lot of action around this style of use. Here's another one. This one we'll call portable or a nomadic coverage, but this is a solution where you have a GoRed system that's been made portable. And so what you can do is if you have a situation where, let's say, you need coverage in a space temporarily, maybe you have another system that you're deploying or building out, or maybe you have an incident in the building, or maybe you have an event in the building let's say the event is going to go for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, and you want to deploy a system that you can bring that outside signal into this building very easily. This is how you do it. 2 tripods, you have one antenna aimed towards the donor, and then you have the other antenna going inside the building with some coax connecting it. And now you have a quick system that you've put inside a building. Very easy to deploy. Okay. This is, again, we talked about the GoRed is not ready, not FCC approved yet for mobile. We're hoping to get there. Our standard commercial product, our GoM, is used in a mobile context, is fully approved, and has been deployed with the major carriers. And so we do see some state, local police agencies and other agencies that are adopting this solution just to improve that cell coverage for their officers in the mobile context. You're seeing a quote there on the bottom, I got 10 miles of additional coverage. We've run several pilots and trials where, for example, we have a 100-mile stretch in Nevada that we use a lot for trialing and for testing, where I think about 30% of that stretch of road is you drop calls and have poor coverage. In the GoM trials, we've essentially covered about 100% of that road with decent coverage. So a lot of benefit in the mobile context, and hopefully we can bring that out soon for GoRed. With that, unless Dean, there's more questions, that's all I had today. Hope that wasn't too many slides for everyone.
No, I think that was about perfect. I think we have one more question, and basically it's around the 800 megahertz public safety equipment.
Yep.
Areas that do not participate in FirstNet?
Yep.
Is there any plans to cover that in the future?
Let me say this. Nextivity is we're all in with public safety. It's an ecosystem and a mission that we're very excited about. Like I said, we're members of the Safer Buildings Coalition. GoRed is just the first product of several that we'll be putting out in the future. So the answer is yes. We will have products in the future that will support, for example, P25, which is digital radio in 800 megahertz.
So first question up is, who helps the customer determine their needs, whether it's GoRed or public safety? Who steers them? And is there a regulatory body? What is?
Well, I think there's a variety of contexts, Dean. We have a really strong and very helpful channel of partners, ecosystem of partners that we leverage, and we have partners that are experts in public safety, and we have partners that are experts in commercial cellular. So it sort of depends on. I think there's several paths to getting there. We see a lot of these requirements get driven, I'm going to generalize here, but they get driven as communications becoming the fourth utility, whether it's public safety or commercial cellular. It's becoming a requirement in buildings. People can't do without it. It's important for building owners to support that, and so I think those requirements will well up from either from the occupants or tenants of their buildings, or the use case itself for the buildings will drive that. But we really rely on our ecosystem of partners to support that. And of course, we have solution architects and other technical support folks internally that can also help customers if needed.
All right. And last question I have is more of kind of, I think, a management question. If you have multiple REDs, can you link them together? How are you going to manage the solution?
Yeah. Good question. So our other products like Quatra, our CelFi Quatra, is really designed for manageability, for remote manageability and monitoring. Go is not so much designed for that, but there are ways that you can manage it. It takes a little more hands-on. So the GoRed has a Bluetooth connection built in, and what you can do is you can attach with your Wave app with your handset. You can attach to that GoRed. And what that does is that connects the GoRed to the internet and to our backend system. Now, if you do that, if you attach the GoRed to our backend system in that manner, then it becomes manageable. Now, obviously, standing there with your handset and connecting to GoRed over Bluetooth is not entirely practical. You can't do that all the time. It's not a 24/7 monitoring or management capability. But if you do have a need to get the system into the internet and get it sort of so where you can view it and check its status, et cetera. We do have a way to get there. Now, if you have multiple GoReds at a site, let's say you've deployed 10 in some structure, what you can do is we have a paradigm for creating a site in our management software. So you create a site, and that site would be where all of these systems are located, and then you attach each one of these systems to that site. So when you go in to view the site, to manage the site, all of these systems that you've deployed there will show up underneath that context. And if you connect them in the manner that I described over Bluetooth with our app, then all of those performance metrics and the data that is in those systems will upload itself to the cloud, and so you'll have visibility to that. Now, it's not a great it's not a great system for manageability. It's like I said, it's kind of hands-on, but it is available, and I think it's better than any of our competition has. But that's the way you would go about doing that.
All right, I think we've hit our time limit. And when will this product be available again, Joe?
So we're shipping samples now, and it will be in production next month.
All right. And where can they get it?
I think you get it from all the usual suspects. We have a distribution network. I would hate to name their names because I'll probably forget somebody and make people angry. But
Get Wireless, Wincom,
yeah,
and Alliance are three master distributors in the U.S.
Yes. And then, of course, if you go online and you type in GoRed, hopefully that'll lead you to success for where to actually buy them.
All right. So this presentation will be publicly available, and we'll send this out. We'll have a taped version for link and download if you'd like to listen to the whole thing over again or present this to your team for a training. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Joe, for presenting.
Thanks.
Have a great day.